¿A dónde está papi? 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 ¿A dónde está papi?
Welcome, welcome, welcome to the Tuesday stream. I hope everyone's having an awesome Tuesday morning. Howdy, everybody. Welcome, welcome. How's it going, Mastro? How's it going, Mr. Floppy Boober? Heat 420, how's it going? Howdy, everybody. Whew. Shouldn't it be like good morning, like good night? I don't know. Maybe it should be good morning. I don't know. Morning here to lurk. My kid gave me COVID. Oh no. Yikes. Well, I hope you feel better. Sheesh. So, last night, grid scale energy storage 30 times cheaper than lithium. That's a good news. Well, that's a good thing. Send that to me. Whispered. All right, cool. We'll definitely take a look here. Okay, so we got a few things to go through. Okay. I guess we'll go through some electoral news first. Electoral news, I guess I should say. But first, story time. So last night, of course, at about, 11 something? Maybe 11:30? I don't know. Close to bedtime anyways. After a nice, relaxing bath, we were in bed, and all of a sudden we hear, the middle of your night. Yeah, I mean, to me, like 11:30 is already, it's already, whew. We're approaching late levels. We're approaching late levels. We hear the cat. We hear Bakita the cat just like freaking out, and I mean like still not 100% sure, but I'm pretty sure it was kind of like a mix between like scared and angry. Scared and angry yowls. and growling. So naturally, of course, we got up and we rushed over to see what the heck was going on. And she was just freaking out at the window. Apparently, something. I'm going to assume it was an animal. The front window of one of our windows was completely taken off on the floor, and she was just freaking the heck out. I have no idea, as far as I know, what exactly it was. It's just like the whole thing was very strange because like there wasn't much damage to the window itself or to the screen itself. Which is very weird because like I don't know. ADT after dark, just barely after dark though. Yeah, exactly. A person or an animal? I'm leaning more towards an animal. Because like this morning I went out there. I found what looks to be like a track. Obviously this is just relying on on instinct. But I found something that looks like a track, a couple of them, some disturbed soil. But the problem I'm having, or the conundrum I'm having, is like, A, why was like Makita did more damage to the curtain inside than the animal outside did to the screen door, or the screen in front of the window, I should say. Like, I don't see any claw marks or anything like that, or anything on the porch either, which is like unbelievably strange. A moose or a bear? Well, definitely no mooses here. We don't have moose here, so I found a track that the closest thing that I could think of that it resembles is a bear. We've had a bear before, trying to catch a free meal out of our trash can. We have seen evidence of a bear before, weeks ago. No, longer than that, months ago. It got a free meal out of our trash, so it's not unheard of. I'm just thinking like, wait, wouldn't there be more damage to the screen, or maybe it just got freaked out? Maybe it was a skinwalker. My trash can got stolen last week. I was like, what? Why? WTF? I don't know. Maybe those trash cans are expensive, right? I don't know. Maybe somebody was trying to make way with a trash can, because those things are expensive. They're like, I don't know. Thankfully, these were already here, but like if you try to buy a trash can, like a large trash can, they're kind of expensive. Do you have bison? No, we don't have bison. Not no. This isn't an area for them. Not to my knowledge. We're like, how do I say, we're kind of like in a mountain, if that makes sense. We're like surrounded by mountains, and we're on a ridge, if that makes sense. So like, things that come to mind are bears, bobcat. Maybe cougar or mountain lion. Maybe I think we have those. I'm convinced that is a possibility. We definitely have coyotes. We definitely have raccoons. We definitely have, although they're very sparse, far and few between, we definitely have wolves. But none of those. Yes, we have wolves. But those are more rare. Maybe raccoon. Because like that's the only animal that I can think of that would have the ability to take off the screen without making too much damage. And it's definitely bigger than Vaquita. Vaquita's a tiny kitty. And it was enough to scare the bejesus out of her. So much so that she was like patrolling the halls. Her tail got all bushy, so she was definitely freaked out. And when she was at that window wherever allegedly the animal was, she just kept sniffing even after we turned on the lights, and just took like a small peek outside because I wasn't gonna go out there. No way. No way. After we took a little peek, she just kept like sniffing the window. I'm just so confused as to what it could have been. What could possibly have removed the screen door? Because like that's not exactly, you can't do that without like having hands, which is really unsettling. I can't think of any other raccoon that's nocturnal that comes near humans. They have thumbs. That might be a possibility. I did find like some disturbed soil on the bottom of the porch, like on the clay. But nothing on the actual like wood, or no scratch marks, nothing. Memo for the record. Maybe it was aliens, I don't know. Do you have porcupines? I actually don't know. Maybe. I don't know. I don't know. I can't say for sure. I know we have groundhogs. A wolverine? Do we even have those? I don't know. That's a good question. I don't think that they're, I don't think we have wolverines, anymore. Maybe at one point in history, a very long time ago. But I don't think we have those anymore here. Yes, wolverines are very aggressive. But yeah, so that freaked me out, and that did not let me sleep till maybe 12:30 plus. So my sleep got completely shot. The bear seems the best bet. Yeah, I think there is a very strong possibility. I mean, logically, I'm just not sure. I mean, logically, we've had a bear before. We've had like disputable evidence that we've had a bear before. There was one single print that I found going away from the house that resembled kind of something that may be it can be interpreted as a bear. So it's either that or a raccoon, because like that's the only thing that I can think of that could actually take the screen off. It could be the Southern Yeti, the Chupacabra. That's right. Somebody, one of my friends told me it was a Chupacabra too. Pixar, it didn't happen. I should have videotaped the whole thing. Except, I don't know. I was more concerned with figuring out what the heck was going on with the cat. I was more concerned about the cat. As soon as I'm telling you, she freaked out. Spread it forward. I did get a picture of the print before it started raining, or the alleged print. The alleged print. So I can post that. The only the only thing I can think of is something that's bigger. Something that's bigger than Vaquita. So a raccoon would qualify. A raccoon would definitely qualify, and a small bear would definitely qualify, because we have both of those here, and I know I've seen undisputable evidence of a bear. So that's probably as close a bet as we have. The only conundrum is like is the lack of evidence of any animal marks on the screen. Any evidence on the screen itself. There's like a tiny puncture on the bottom of the screen, but I don't know if that was already there. It was just like largely untouched, which is like the real conundrum of the whole incident. Yeah, maybe a highly organized gangs of squirrels. But yeah, that's where we're at. I have no idea. Oh, and the third qualification is it had to be nocturnal. That's the third animal qualification. Bigger than Vaquita. Managed to get the screen off the window. And nocturnal. So any of those qualifications could be a candidate as to who paid a visit to us last night and freaked the crap out of my cat. I'm 5 hours ahead of you, so you're about 5 p.m. Right? Wait, can I math? No. It's like afternoon. A giant spider? No. No. I don't think a giant spider would have the ability to take my screen off. The most likely candidate is probably a raccoon, or a bear, but I would see claw marks, wouldn't I? That's the conundrum I'm having of this entire thing. Like, if it was a bear, you would know. It would be claw mark. There would be, like, claw marks on the actual screen, which is puzzling. And unsettling. bear and a raccoon would probably not attack the cat. So they are likely. Yeah. I don't think it was like, oh, maybe you're right. Maybe the cat freaked out the animal and the animal freaked out the cat, and there was just like a whole brouhaha that happened. And it ran off the same way it came, because like the only explanation is that it came up through the wooden porch, because there's literally no prints unless it rained and everything got washed, which it is raining right now. I could just not find evidence to try to point me in what direction it came from or what direction it left, save for maybe one print. Maybe. One print and a little bit of disturbed clay. I don't know. Maybe, because like, you might be right, Astro. The animal that was there probably was more freaked out of Vaquita. Vaquita freaked out because, well, she's never probably seen either of those animals, and it freaked her out, in turn freaked it out, and it just ran away, and in its hurry, it might have dragged the, I don't know, but how could it lift the door? How could, that's not the door, the, screen. That's the one piece of this entire thing that is puzzling me, because, well, the only other explanation is that it was somebody, in which case that is deeply unsettling. Someone was trying to take your pig? Well, joke's on them, I don't have a piggy. If you haven't seen that movie, best Nicolas Cage movie of all time, which one? Did Boris Johnson get voted out or something? Not to my understanding, Thandera. To my understanding, he barely survived the vote of no confidence. I think. Oh, the movie's called Pig. Okay. If it had been a human, I doubt the cat would act that way. Maybe, but it was nighttime. It was very, like, dark, and maybe, I don't know, maybe you're right, Astro. I'm not sure. I'm just so puzzled as to what possibly, that could have been. I'm not sure. The whole thing was very strange. Don't Google or read about it, just watch it? Okay. The same lefties rightfully complaining about police militarization and antagonism are the same lefties that want to give their or other people's guns to that same government over emotional appeals. Cool, bro. Nice. Awesome. Excellent meme. Enjoy being on your knees. You're me with no principles. Yeah, dude. Cool. All right, we got another qualification. Not qualification. Another positive remark for Pig the movie. Bet you wear the same beanie for the reason Tim Pool does. Bro, this beanie is for your benefit, okay? This beanie is for your benefit. It hides my power level. Alright? That's what it does. Ed, head, having, ass. I think those are words. Yeah, I mean, they kind of look like words. Ed, head, having, I mean, they're definitely words, kind of. You really think your cosplaying as Counter-Strike is gonna defeat the US military? If you gift 10 subs, I'll take my beanie off for you. All right, folks, we gotta get this show on the road. Really quickly, we're starting off today with electoral politics. This one will take 5 seconds. Jessica Cisneros is going to file for a recount in the runoff between against Henry Cuellar. Cuellar leads by a mere 197 votes. It is so close. It is so close. We'll keep updating as we see. Henry Cuellar is, I think, the only, if not one of the only anti-abortion Democrats that are running for office, like unironically, which is very strange. Like, why are you even okay? This is such a tight race. It is unbelievable. Henry Cuellar currently has 22,788 votes to Cisneros 22,591, with a 99% estimate of the account completed. We will see what the results are of that. But it's going to be a close one, that's for sure. It's going to be a close one. Cuellar, in a statement, welcomed the process that would only further verify our victory. My opponent has every legal right to call for a recount, though she has previously stated that she won't stop fighting until every vote is counted. Well, every vote has been counted, and she has no path to victory. Wow. The nominating contest in South Texas' 28th congressional district, which ranges parts from San Antonio to Laredo and other border communities, has been among the most sharply fought and competitive of an election season, already rolled by Democrats' inter-party clashes. Cisneros, a progressive backed by movement leaders like Bernie Sanders and Representative AOC, also ran against Cuellar in 2020. She lost them by 3.6 in a one-on-one race. This time it's what? Point something? 0.6. This time it was 0.6%. She still has a chance. Let's not let's not be let's not huff the hopium too much. Even though it is a very, very long shot, I guess. Technically she does. But realistically speaking, once the votes are recounted, I'm not sure that it's gonna change the result, in my opinion. Oh, we might we might be in for a bitter L. That was so close. It might be a bitter L. Henry Cuellar is the lone anti-abortion Dem remaining in the House. That is unbelievable. Wild. Cuellar. Remember, these are the same people who were championing the idea of codifying Roe versus Wade, who had probably several chances to do so, and did not, backing the one anti-abortion Democrat. So it's like, what a freaking fail. What a fail. What a fail. Absolute fail. Party leaders, the correct move should have been, well, you need to change your stances on a couple of things and we'll back you. Or we'll back your challenger. if a race is coming down to literally 0.6%, Democratic leadership could have easily leveraged that to either back the progressive candidate, the progressive challenger, or strong arm Cuellar to be like, look, bro, it's 2022. What? Why are you the lone Democrat supporting forced birth? Nice meme. We'll definitely keep an eye out for the final result. But yeah, this seems like a bitter L. I put an abortion art. Yeah, I had it queued up. But do you think it's a little bit too do you think it's a little bit too much, James? Because I put it up in the queue. It's right here. Or do you think it's like... And Democrats don't want to pass things because they're donors, but they need a posture to get reelected. So they need scapegoats like conservative Dems. Yeah. It's not really bad. It just might be a little bit touchy for some people who are directly impacted by it. Gotcha. Okay. Jesus. I'll post the link to that. It's also in the Discord. but I will go over like some elements of it because I think it's like I think you know what we'll go over pieces of it, especially since we just talked about what? Yeah, mason jar. Especially since we're just piggybacking off a article about the lone pro um the lone pro forced birth dem. So this person who has been named quote Ellie snugged the rubber stoppers into a mason jar. She snipped the aquarium tubing into a pair of foot-long segments and attached a valve to the syringe's plastic tip. In less than 10 minutes, Ellie had finished a project, a simple abortion device. It looked like a cross between an at-home brewing kit and a 7th grade science experiment. 2 segments of tubing protruded from the holes in the stopper, once connected to a cannula, the other to the syringe. Holding the anatomical model, Ellie traced a path with the tip of the cannula into, yes, positioning it. Oh, Jesus. Okay, so it gets very, very graphic. Next, to show clearly how the suction process works, she placed the cannula into the coffee. When she drew back the plunger on the syringe, dark fluid coursed through the aquarium tubing and into the mason jar, slowly collecting within the diamond pattern glass. Cannula. Cannula. Okay. Also, good morning. Howdy. I read about such devices, but watching the scene on the beach towel brought history into focus with startling clarity. Women did this the last time abortion was illegal. Ellie didn't invent this device. That distinction goes to Lorraine Rothman, an Orange County public school teacher and activist. In 1971, a member of the feminist self-help group had been familiarizing themselves with the work of an illegal abortion clinic in Santa Monica. The owner, a psychologist named Harvey Carmen, had designed a slender, flexible straw now known as the Carmen cannula, and a standard piece of medical equipment which he used to draw the contents of a uterus into a large syringe. Carmen's method only took a few minutes and had been nicknamed the lunch hour abortion because patients could return to regular activities afterwards. It was less invasive than dilation and a curettage, a procedure that uses surgical instruments to scrape the uterine wall. Yeah, so my point of illustrating this or going over that piece of the article is because that's the future. When the Supreme Court decides that bodily autonomy is just not a thing anymore, they're going to push folks to go to aquarium stores, acquire medical things, as well as valves, mason jars, all to make an at-home abortion device. That's the future. And we've got people like Henry Cuellar as a potential Democratic nominee. Can't wait. Yeah. If you guys want to see what it looks like, the device, the at-home abortion device, it kind of looks like this. It kind of looks like that. Activists are still tinkering with Rothman's design. One added a second valve, another upgraded the suction using a penis pump. That is irony. Beyond there's like levels of irony that had to be put underneath that. Imagine using a readily available device for men in order for a person to have bodily autonomy. Like, just think of that, like, picture, like the irony that has to undergo that. And then we've had like Supreme Court folks trying to take away the right to bodily autonomy. You can add a cannula into the end. She estimated that she has performed hundreds of abortions using the Dell M, but also other methods, including medical grade manual vacuum aspiration kits and pharmaceuticals. The midwife is part of a network of self-described community providers, a term for people who perform abortions and offer other reproductive health care services outside the medical system. Before the coronavirus pandemic, she traveled and taught in-person workshops throughout US and Canada. She now teaches online. Ellie learned how to build a Dell M in one of her classes. And this is why banning abortion isn't going to stop abortions. You're just forcing folks to take matter into their own hands. And they will. What, you're going to ban all these medical things? You're going to ban mason jars, syringes? You're going to ban those too? Good luck. I'll post the link again. It's also on Discord if you guys want to take a look. For Ellie, the Dell M was more symbolic than pragmatic, an amulet from the past to carry into an uncertain future. I don't know. I think that just because it's a machine or device that was invented in the 70s, clearly it might be useful now. After all, pharmaceuticals can now use 10 pregnancies in the first trimester when more than 90% of legal abortions occur. Almost 99% of abortions occur within the first 20 weeks. There's also modern mass-produced manual vacuum aspiration devices for doing what the Dell M does. Community providers have talked about stockpiling such supplies in case Roe falls. Ellie has coined the term for people who share that outlook as vaginal preppers. Right, just like the drug laws. Oh yeah, they won't ban the BB pumps, of course. I was just making a point that there's some levels of irony that actual device can be used to perform like at-home abortions. Given uncertainties, she suggested it couldn't hurt to have a do-it-yourself tool like the DLM. Just knowing the people who came before you had other ways of managing these things, not necessarily through a doctor or condoned by the government. There's something really powerful in that. Ellie packed her supplies into a tote bag and she said, um, she told me to take the DLM and she gave me a speculum too. According to a 2021 Gallup poll, fewer than 1 in 3 Americans support that outcome. The legality of abortion would be largely left to the states. 13 states have trigger bans on the books, laws that will take effect the moment Roe is overturned. More than half of all states are certain or likely to attempt to ban abortion if the Supreme Court provides the legal space to do so, according to the Gutschmer Institute, a pro-abortion rights research organization. For many Americans, Roe already feels meaningless. Nearly 90% of U.S. counties lack a clinic that offers abortions. States have passed more than 1,300 restrictions on abortion since it was made a constitutional right. For people struggling to get by, those restrictions can be unsurmountable, and that's the point. Obtaining an abortion often means traveling long distance, dodging childcare, not to mention taking time off from work. Yep. In most states, people may reach a clinic only to learn that they are legally required to make 2 visits, one for counseling and the second for the abortion, with a mandatory waiting period of up to 3 days in between. The cost of an in-clinic abortion ranges about $500 in the first trimester and more than $1,000 if the pregnancy is further along. The expense is ineligible for federal funding under a long-standing restriction called the Hyde Amendment. Wait, wasn't that Biden's thing? In case anyone needs it, Auntie Networks works in most states to help people get abortion care. That's right. Great news as always. You can thank James Napper for that one. Don't worry, it's gonna get better. A sprawling grassroots infrastructure has already grown, and the cracks created by such challenges, even with Roe still the law of the land. More than 90 local organizations known as abortion funds raise money to pay for procedures and related expenses. Practical support groups offer rides to medical facilities along with housing, childcare, and translation services. Clinic escorts guide patients past throngs of angry protesters. Doctors and other abortion providers travel hundreds of miles to work in underserved areas that are openly hostile to abortion. This improvised safety net doesn't catch everyone, though. Below the grassroots is the underground, a small network of community providers who connect with abortion seekers by word of mouth. This network, too, is growing. Its ranks include midwives, herbalists, doulas, and educators. When necessary, they're often willing to work around the law. Even before the pandemic, with state restrictions mounting, the grassroots and underground struggled to meet demand for help. Then, as the coronavirus was first surging, dozens of states, mostly in the South, but also to include Alaska, Iowa, and Ohio, moved to suspend nearly all access to abortion, describing it as a non-essential procedure. A handful of those efforts were temporarily successful, creating what felt somewhat like a dress rehearsal for the end of Roe. That feeling returned last fall when Texas used a creative legal strategy to ban most abortions. After roughly 6 weeks gestation, legal challenges to the law so far have failed. The impact of the Texas law was immediate. Neighboring states experienced a swell of people seeking help, creating bottlenecks and forcing local patients to go out of state themselves in a secondary wave of migration. A term gained currency: abortion refugees. Yep. I live in a country that stopped the death of young women by making these procedures legal long ago. Nice. Yeah, we don't regard like women as, people here. Women's reproductive health in the U.S. has always been behind and disproportionately bad. It just keeps getting worse. Yep. So we just keep going backwards and backwards. Dina! Howdy. Folks, if you've got like 5 seconds, can we just head on over to twitch.tv/Tina_2? Go show them some love, alright? Same goes for Surfer McGritty. Twitch.tv/Surfer McGritty. We support morning after bills and extensive reproductive health clinics to help young women in trouble. Nice! That's nice. I wish we had that. Yeah, even without abortion bans. Black women's access of and quality of reproductive health care is literally deadly. Yeah, that's true. Anyways, folks, get ready for the future. It's gonna look like this. Where'd it go? Come on. This is the future right here. A syringe, mason jar, aquarium tubes. That's the future, folks. If you want to check out the full article to read the full story that James posted, you can check out the Discord or just click on the link there. I believe the Supreme Court is set to make a final ruling towards the end of this month, so we'll definitely be keeping an eye on that. Let's turn to our buddies, the Proud Boys. The Justice Department on yesterday? Yes, yesterday. Charged the head of the Proud Boys, Enrique Tarrio, and 4 other leaders with seditious conspiracy in the January 6th insurrection, escalating the criminal case against a far-right extremist group. These are the most aggressive charges brought by the Justice Department against the Proud Boys, and are the first allegations by prosecutors that the group tried to oppose by force the presidential transfer of power. Yeah. This is in line with a lot of what their communications between them have revealed. And it's in line with their connections to the Oath Keepers as well. Tarrio and his co-defendants previously pleaded not guilty to an earlier slate of charges. This new indictment adds fresh details about what the Proud Boys leaders said on January 6th. Prosecutors accused the 5 defendants of working together to intimidate members of Congress and law enforcement and prompt them to flee, thereby preventing from performing their official duties. Prosecutors revealed Tarrio's messages from January 6, where he appears to compare the attack to the U.S. Capitol to the Winter Palace, the home of the Russian Emperor, which was stormed during the Russian Revolution in 1917. That's a good meme. Jesus. In text, Tarrio appears to comment on Congress being evacuated from the chamber, unable to certify the Electoral College vote. Remember, he also lied, saying that he had absolutely no contact and absolutely nothing to do with anything related to January 6th. But yet there was communication before, the day before, where there were meetups between them and the Oath Keepers, if I'm correct. And you're gonna tell me that what? No connection, nothing? Greetings from Murmansk, Russia? Howdy. An unnamed person texts Tario, did we, meaning the Proud Boys, just influence history, prompting Tario to respond, let's first see how this plays out. Jesus Christ. Oh God. Before the Senate resumes certifying the presidential vote, the unnamed person writes back, they have to certify today or it's invalid. That's not really true. That's a really reductive understanding of the process, but sure. Four men charged along Tario in the indictment are Ethan Nordian, the sergeant-at-arms of the Proud Boys, and his president of the local chapter, Joseph Briggs, a self-described organizer. I think they even tried to distance themselves from this guy, but no, nice try. Self-described organizer of Proud Boy events, Zachary Rail, who runs the Philadelphia chapter of the Proud Boys, Dominic Pizzola, a New York Proud Boy who goes by Spaz. All five were indicted on less serious conspiracy charges. The defendants are set to be in court later this week. Lawyers for Nordian, Rail, Pizzola, and Biggs have maintained in court that their clients had no plan when they walked into the Capitol on January 6th, while Tario's lawyers stressed that their client left Washington January 5th after being arrested for burning a church's BLM banner in December of 2020. Yeah, that part is true. He did leave. However, he was still in constant communication with the folks on the ground. Rel responded to new charge with his defense attorney, Carmen Hernandez, writing in a court filing on Monday that the new indictment does not allege that Mr. Rel used force at any time or encouraged anyone to do so. The worst that has been alleged against Mr. Rel is that he associated himself with the Proud Boys, a lawful fraternal association. Yes. I wonder if they consider I don't know, insert organized crime here. I don't know, insert random gang name here. I wonder if they consider that a lawful fraternal organization. I wonder if that's how they would word that. Relis pleaded not guilty to his previous January 6 related charges in court, and like others in the case, he has not had the opportunity to respond formally in court to the sedition charge. The latest developments comes after Charles Donahue, a Proud Boy from North Carolina, pleaded guilty in April and agreed to cooperate with the investigation. Damn. Okay, so things are wait. Things are getting a little bit more clear now. So this guy Donahue over here, that dude's given them up. That dude's given information because if they had evidence, it only tells me that this Donahue guy provided evidence for them to add that charge afterwards and get an indictment, which requires, to my understanding of the process, a grand jury to review the evidence and then agree to that. This guy's talking. This guy is singing like a canary. If I had to take a guess, if I had to take a shot in the dark, this guy is singing like a canary. He was not named in Monday's indictment. Damn. Whew. Yeah. The Justice Department has brought one other seditious conspiracy case, the gravest charge to emerge from the Capitol insurrection against the leader of the Oath Keepers, who are accused of extensively planning and preparing for violence on January 6th. Prosecutors have already secured 3 guilty pleas to the seditious conspiracy in that case. Yeah. These guys were even more organized. As I've said before, every update on this situation we'll continue to talk about, as it is incredibly important. Also, a reminder: in 2 days, the public hearings for the January 6th committee will be live. I probably won't be able to stream it. I'll see, but do keep an eye out for that. January 9th. There's going to be several, I think. It is important to keep up. That's right. I got to keep people's eyes open. Eyes on the ball, folks. I'll check it out. Yeah, there you go. And if you're live during that time, folks, just join Tina's channel if you do cover it. Not today, in 2 days. Sorry, did I say today? No, June 9th, 2 days from now. June 9th. Let's hope it's more than just democratic posturing, and let's actually hold people accountable for treason. Aha! Oh, Memo. I don't know if oh, I'm sorry. Jeez, I'm all over the place. June 9th for the January 6th commission. There we go. All right, we're good. Oh, Memo, I don't know about accountability. The usefulness I see is the theater to just put that out in the air, just to put out for the public viewing. That's the only the benefit that I see, is that it needs to be public, whether it be posturing or whether it be theater. It needs to be public. Unfortunately, I don't know accountability, like, wise, where that will go. I don't know if, like, save, like, the people who are getting charged with sedition, as they should. Other than that, most of the accountability has been largely ignored, especially for the folks like, I don't know, Donald Trump. Speaking of which, I think that's a perfect actually, we've got one we've got one video, and then we'll continue. Bro, stop trying to sell me shoes. Look, I don't want shoes. Jesus. We've got this video. We've got the next story about fake electors. That was instructed by a Trump campaign staffer, so that's a good meme.
Are the essential basis of our modern America. Jobs are the essential basis of our modern America.
Mr. Speaker, jobs.
It's time for America to get back to work.
Work, the defining task of our lives, an indicator of status, a generator of wealth, and a necessity to live. The world we exist in is built around work. You set an alarm for work, drive to work, do your work, stress about work.
True. The only thing I could say is that at least I don't drive to work. At least.
Commute home from work and even relax to try to get away from work. For many, work is hell. Horror stories of oppressive bosses.
We are made to work continuously, often through the night. Our bosses don't care. They're only bothered about production.
And exploitative conditions.
We've looked at how we can get packages to the customer in a day, but we haven't figured out how we can get packages to the customer in a day without hurting people.
That would be Amazon. I don't... no amount of pixelation is going to... no amount of pixelation is going to take that one. I mean, come on. Who is the only company that is boasting about, like, one-day shipping or whatnot?
Are not uncommon in our work-to-live economy. This is the story of work, how it's come to define our lives and destroy our environment. But this is also the story of how we might carve new paths away from work towards modes of living that embrace play, happiness, and a rich relationship with land and people. This video is made possible by CuriosityStream and Nebula. Watch my brand new full-length companion video to this one exploring one of capitalism's biggest climate gambles on Nebula by signing up for the CuriosityStream Nebula bundle using the link in the description below. Before we go any further, we need to understand what work means under capitalism, because as feminist scholar Kathy Weeks describes in her book, The Problem with Work, Feminism, Marxism, Anti-Work Politics, and Post-Work Imaginaries, wage work remains today the centerpiece of late capitalist economic systems. She goes on to add that wage work is not only the primary mechanism by which income is distributed, it is also the basic means by which status is allocated and by which most people gain access to healthcare and retirement.
Yeah, which is always kind of weird, to say the least. Yes, in order for you to have the ability to, I don't know, put food on the table or to access healthcare, you gotta work. You gotta work, even if it's like, and it's also just like the weird, concept, dynamic of like, what you do is a status symbol. I'm a doctor. Ooh, prestigious. I'm a lawyer. Prestigious. Oh, I'm a tradesman. What? Even though tradesmen make good money, but even just what you say you do is like a status symbol. And then like there's a sub-layer to that. It's like if you obviously make more money, that is also a status symbol that puts you... It's just all weird. It doesn't make sense.
In short, under capitalism, we need to work in order to live.
Which is also weird.
Without a job, we lose social status and our very means of subsistence. So when we critique work under capitalism, we're not saying there is no labor that needs to be done. Cooking, cleaning, construction, farming, and childcare are all examples of forms of labor that we would need no matter what economic system we live in.
True.
I'm specifically critiquing wage work, which can be thought of as the commodification of your productive labor. Or in other words, the act of selling your labor power, aka your ability to produce goods, for cash or wages. A system wherein instead of cooking to feed yourself or your neighbors, you sell your time and expertise slicing cucumbers to a company and in return receive money. This is, as Kathy Weeks and indeed Marx argue, the lifeblood of capitalism. And to make matters worse, within capitalism, the profit incentive means that employers inevitably try to minimize the amount they're paying you while maximizing your productive output. The less they pay you for your time, and the more you can produce, the larger their bank account grows. As a result, wage work under capitalism is necessarily a system of exploitation of employees by employers. But because there are few alternatives, we are forced into this exploitation, selling our labor in order to live.
Okay.
You're at a party. The lights are dim, the music a little louder than you'd like, and a friend of a friend comes over to you and strikes up a conversation. They immediately dive in with a question. What do you do for a living? In the bastion of capitalism that is the US, this is a common turn of phrase that speaks volumes of our puritanical relationship with work. Quite
Yeah,
literally,
like exactly. That's what I'm saying. Like it's such a weird dynamic at play here. What do you do for a living? Oh. Bro, you're just a retail worker? Like, even though you don't outwardly say that, like a lot of people, they have preconceived biases based on, or sometimes even, preconceived biases based on what you do, as if that mattered. It is asking how you spend the majority of your time, yeah. But like there's a bias that can internally click based on what that answer is. What do you do to survive? Yeah.
we spend most of our times on the job. In
There you
2017,
go.
the average US worker spent 1,757 hours working
Jesus
per year,
Christ.
which is just under half of their total waking hours. We work for a myriad of reasons: to eat, pay rent at the end of the month, pay utilities and medical bills, pay off debt, and even to fit in with our neighbors and friends.
Yeah, because we're told that that's what you need to do. Measure the measured success in the social hierarchy is how much money, what you got, what's the stuff, how much stuff do you have, what kind of stuff do you have? Do you have the fancy stuff? So bizarre.
Without resources held in common, wage work is the dominant means by which we're able to provide for ourselves. And to make matters worse, this kind of work has become intertwined with virtue. If you work hard, if you get down in the muck, you're a productive member of society and you'll be rewarded. A sentiment rooted in a Puritan...
And you'll be, yeah, but like that's not even true too. Some of the hardest working people are like super looked down upon in terms of like the social hierarchy. Someone who has the fortitude to work in retail, or even worse, food, someone who has the fortitude to work in retail, food, or farm, as Memo said, are the hardest in terms of like labor intensive jobs and like mentally draining jobs you could think of. By that theory, if you just work hard, you'll succeed. By that theory, those folks should be at the top of the food chain, right? The proverbial social hierarchy. They should be making all the bucks. Or maybe it's just not true.
and work ethic that is epitomized in modern hustle culture and the dream job mentality.
Gotta keep putting in the work, putting in the work, putting in the work. There is no quick cure.
So now we must not only report to work to put food on our plates, but we must also be passionate about how we make our money. If we care enough, the thinking goes, exploitative and inhumane working conditions are acceptable. How many times have you heard, do what you love and find your dream job? Journalist and author Sarah Jaffe suggests that this is yet another way to exploit workers.
So you see this labor of love story then just seeping into everything. This myth has become so pervasive in this economy, and it accompanies worsening conditions broadly across the entire economy. So you're getting more sort of verbal pressure to love your job at the same time as your job is giving you less back.
Right. Yeah, you listen, you ingrates. You're lucky you even have a job. Okay? You're lucky you even have a job. You're lucky that I'm giving you the opportunity to put food on your table. Okay? Bro, for real? Or my favorite one. Listen, we're a family in this company. We're a family in this company, okay? Italy had the biggest communist party in Europe, and then it disappeared, and now Italy doesn't have a single public industry.
love your job framing is insidious. If a company convinces you to work for passion or for a cause, then you might be willing to work for less compensation. This is the case for mission-driven nonprofits where burnout runs rampant, for creative industries like film and animation, and the quote-unquote working for a cause mentality that is now being used to...
Yeah, and for video game development companies. Yeah. These are all negative symptoms of, well, capitalism. Yeah.
To lure workers into the oppressive warehouses of companies like Amazon. Our work shapes who we are, whether we like it or not. And it not only defines our personal lives, it defines our environments and communities. One study in the US found strong evidence that households with longer work hours have significantly larger carbon footprints. The authors point towards the fact that longer hours at work leave little room for tasks like cooking or grocery shopping, which often leads to an increase in carbon-intensive activities like getting takeout and home delivery. In short, the more work we're made to do, the more emissions we create. And there are also a number of studies that reveal that the opposite is true. The fewer hours we work, the less emissions we create. But we'll get into the specifics of that research a little later on, because there is...
I mean, like, not only that, it's just healthier. It's literally just healthier for like physically and mentally. Yeah.
Also a social toll to capitalist wage work.
They ask us to work so late. I can't even feed my children at night.
Because our employers get us to work during the bulk of our waking day, we have very little free time for organizing, deliberating, being in community, and finding passion and play outside of our job.
Yeah, all of these are super important, but you know, the moment we get a chance to sit down and think, talk to each other, that leaves opportunity for us to realize in how many ways we're getting effed, and we can't have that. We can't have people coming together and realizing collectively how effed things are, and then coming to a collective conclusion as to why. Silly plebs, get back to work.
All of which are crucial parts to a true democratic system. Perhaps this is purposeful. The more free time we have, the more we recognize the exploitation of work, the flaws and destruction of capitalism, and ultimately the necessity to end work as we know it. But before we end wage work, we need to understand just how meaningless some work under capitalism really is. Imagine this.
Let's start with like, there's like an entire like hierarchy, and especially with like corporate in the corporate world, where there's just like layers that are just really not necessary, but are designed for, probably in my opinion, maybe to micromanage, I assume.
You commute by car every day into your corporate cubicle job. Sit down, turn on your computer, and act as a glorified copy and paste button. All day, every day, you copy text from employee emails asking for tech help and paste it into a separate form. Or you stand guard over an empty room. Or you drive an hour into work just to move some military equipment from one room to another. Well, you can stop imagining, because these are all real descriptions of people's jobs. In his book, Bullshit Jobs, anthropologist David Graeber supplies countless confessions from workers across the world condemning the pointlessness of their own jobs. Indeed, a recent poll from YouGov found that 1 in 5 people living in the United States think their job is not making a meaningful contribution to the world. And a similar poll conducted in the UK revealed that 1/4 of British workers claimed their jobs lacked meaning. That is a substantial amount of people who think their jobs are doing little or nothing. Graeber points to whole industries like corporate law, telemarketing, and private equity whose jobs wouldn't be missed for a second if they didn't exist.
Yeah, true. You know, the thing that gets me about a lot of this personally here in the UK, they're testing 4-day work weeks, right? Where you earn the same but work less days, and the news is filled with all of these stories like, oh, it's helping these people, or it's giving a positive effect. But I remember 3 to 4 years ago, Jeremy Corbyn proposed it and people ridiculed it as fantasy. A lot of the time, reform isn't about what the reform is, it's about who is suggesting it. Oh my god, are you for real, James? That is unbelievably frustrating. What? That is asinine. Holy yikes. Like, imagine, this is why it's like, oh god. Yes, if Jeremy Corbyn proposed it, it is like freaking the end of the economy. the end of economy, a fantastical pipe dream. But if the people who were just ridiculing it a few years back propose it, then it's good. What? That's insane. That's a good meme. Thanks for that, James.
He also nods towards other industries that are not only useless, but create immense amounts of waste and emissions. Speculative construction, planned obsolescence, and I would add, the military and imperial countries like the US. Real estate companies building a high-rise on property that they think might gain in value, but is too expensive for most people to live in. Phone companies that...
Yeah, and then they just like basically cash out and run. Sometimes even developing in places that they shouldn't be developing because of climate change. I.e., a good example would be Miami Beach and like all of those areas off like the East Coast in Florida. They're continuing to develop, even though we've seen like just last week, no, a couple of days ago, we saw 11 inches of water just poof. Streets are all flooded. But those developers don't care. They're not incentivized to care. They're incentivized to make their money and run.
Render gadgets unusable after 2 years, and a war machine that starts wars to protect oil interests.
That also, like the planned obsolescence thing really gets me too. Like I remember voting for Corbyn, a big deal for me as someone who traditionally does not vote, and one of the biggest reasons was because I thoroughly believed in the 4-day week, and yeah, because like, it makes sense. And moving people into part-time hours for full-time wages is a solution to both bullshit jobs and also public well-being based.
And creates more emissions than many countries of the world. All are in the business of excess and excrement. What if instead we only built accessible dwellings for people, phones that lasted 15 years or more, and dismantled the military-industrial complex? Maybe then we would have a little less environmentally destructive and meaningless work on our hands, and a lot of hours to do something we actually care about away from our jobs.
I think that might be true, but I don't know. I mean, it would be positive. I just don't know if like this is. It just feels like this is presenting like the sole problem and a sole solution to like climate change. That's my only issue with this. It kind of presents it in that way. I understand it's like an 18-minute video. A topic like this would require a lot more time and detail. But just on like the economic principle and just like for the principle of well-being for both for workers, for both the 4-day week and to limit BS jobs, then yeah. Echo Resto Dragon, how's it going? Howdy, howdy. Economics is a death cult pseudoscience.
And in stark opposition to these useless jobs, the paid work that actually needs doing and is often low carbon is undervalued and cast aside. Exploited farmhands, underpaid teachers, and burnt-out caregivers, among others, are professions relegated to the lower rungs of worker status. We refuse to acknowledge the truly brutal reality of the kind of work that makes our cheap, convenient lives possible. And so we outsource it, often to the most marginalized members of society, and that allows the rest of us to ignore it. So in this economic system, a lot of the work we value most, as evidenced by both the paychecks of the people doing the work and the social value associated with that work, is some of the least important to the well-being of a society. And much of the work we devalue is the most needed. On top of that, meaningless jobs that exist throughout the economy often are situated in industries that produce the most waste and emissions. So if the capitalist form of work doesn't work, how can we work less? What would even happen if we worked less? Or dare I say it, end this capitalist form of work once and for all? What would happen if we ended exploitative or useless wage work as we know it? What if work wasn't required to put food on your plate? Well, we have lots of studies examining shorter work weeks which divorced pay from hours worked and give us a very small glimpse at a different relationship with work. Iceland, the UK, Spain, and even companies like Microsoft Japan, among many others, have all run 4-day workweek trials. The results for almost all of them have been positive. In Iceland, the government trialed a 32-hour workweek while maintaining the same pay, and the participants reported significantly less stress, more focus, more time to do household work, and more time—
What? No way. Thinking that, like, maybe life shouldn't just revolve around work, 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 work. Actually improves people's mental health and like productivity. No way. There's definitely a lot of silly things around work that worsen the environmental impact. Yes, I agree. For example, this week I had to go into the office for my job. The other week is the other 3 I do at home, but I only need to go in because the company has to justify its real estate. So why not like sell it? So I need to take a bus, buy lunches, buy plastic wrap, spend money. Yeah, exactly. You're right. That would make a huge impact. Debate me, debate me, debate me, debate me, debate me. Look, I found our
Debate. Enter the ring of logic and reason. If I don't know what I'm talking about and you point that out, that's an ad hominem, baby. Your argument's been demolished. If I say something heinous and that makes you angry, that's an emotional argument, and I win. You're going up against the titan of the mind. So you don't want a free exchange of ideas? Isn't that what society's all about? You're never gonna change my mind, but a bunch of dumbasses online will think I won. Why don't you want to debate? Please debate me. Oh, come on, please debate me. Oh, fuck. That means I win.
There you go. Starbucks just shut down the store. That unionizes a good thing, though, because now Antifa has a roadmap on how to shut down their arch enemy, Starbucks. They don't even need to throw bricks through windows. Damn, dude. Unions are terrible and make workers lazy and expensive. Tell me you don't understand a single thing without telling me you understand a single thing about what you're talking about. Aren't union jobs like one of the hardest jobs in the industry? Like, have you talked to a union worker? Have you talked to a union worker? Of course, police unions are fine. I know, buddy. It's okay. I mean, I work part-time, so it gives me a lot of time to volunteer at local citizens advice one day a week. That's nice. Imagine more people had the ability to that. Yeah, imagine having the ability to go help your community and interact with your community. Damn. Imagine parents having a day off to pick up their kids at school or watch their kids play football or take whatever partner out to a nice meal or take their partner out to a nice meal. Damn, imagine like life, living life. Imagine, unironically, touching grass. Can you imagine? Abandoned 22 communities. How is that even possible? They're like a person who's just like trying to like desperately grasp for attention. They're like trying to collect bands like Pokemon badges. So like usually trolls like this, it's like I try not to even give them what they want, you know? I firmly believe that this is this guy.
Debate. Enter the ring of logic and reason. If I don't know what I'm talking about and you point that out, that's an ad hominem, baby. Your argument's been demolished. If I say something heinous and that makes you angry, that's an emotional argument.
Look, it's you.
You're going up against the titan of the mind. So you don't want a free exchange of ideas? Isn't that what society's all about? You're never gonna change my mind, but a bunch of dumbasses online will think I won. Why don't you want to debate? Please debate me. Oh, come on, please debate me. Oh, fuck. That means I win.
That means I win.
Time to spend with family and friends. And a trial for Microsoft's Japan offices produced similar results. From these studies, we can see that less work means better quality of life. But something that is often overlooked in the conversation about a shorter work week is the environmental impact of less work. During the Microsoft trial, for example, the offices used 23% less electricity and printed 59% fewer sheets of paper. While a projection of the consequences of shifting the UK to a 4-day work week without the loss of pay found that the reduction in work could cut the country's carbon footprint by 127 million tons per year by 2025. That's a 21.3% cut to the UK's total yearly emissions. While a 2015 Swedish study found that for every 1% decrease in working time, energy use decreased by 0.7% and greenhouse gas emissions dropped by 0.8%. Part of the reason why there are such significant reductions in emissions is that there's less commuting, as well as less energy needed for computers, office lights, and paper production. But also, a shorter workweek trial in France found that when people have more time, they're likely to spend it on low-carbon activities like gardening, walking, and reading. In addition, if we are able to cut down on meaningless jobs creating useless stuff, consumption decreases and waste decreases. We're less tempted to buy a random gadget if there's no one to make it and no company to advertise it. And when we're less stressed, less disconnected, and not burnt out, we are less reliant on technology as a tool to numb and distract ourselves. But a shorter work week is just a taste. What would it mean to have a world not based on work for wages, but instead on pleasure and play? A world without exploitative and meaningless work is a truly enticing idea. Instead of people giving up their time with their children to work more, or people being abused because they have no way to get out of their exploitative workplace, or people working endlessly to not even make enough to pay for food or rent or clean water for their families, maybe we could have a world where every day people wake up, are provided for, and did the work because they wanted to, not because they needed to pay for the roof over their head and the food on their table. How that would function is left to be seen, but it would definitely require a shared burden of undesirable jobs, some amount of automation, and a much stronger sense of collective responsibility. Maybe you help build your neighbor's house not because you're getting paid to do it, but because you like carpentry and seeing the joy on your neighbor's face when the building is complete. Yes, this would certainly be a slower world without people grinding away in warehouses to bring you that one-day shipping. But a slower life could give time for people to stop, appreciate, and care for the environment and people around them. If this sounds like I have my head in the clouds, there are a wide range of people and movements fighting to change our current relationship with work. Some, mainly based in anarchist political tendencies, are fighting to abolish work as we know it. They seek a world that embraces and finds what anarchist Bob Black calls a society based on festivity, creativity, conviviality, commensality, and maybe even art. No, this doesn't mean everyone will just sit on the couch and watch TV. These anarchist visions imagine full control of the means of production in order to transform work from a job that you need in order to eat to an act of pleasure that you do because you love it. Think about...
Okay, but sometimes some of the way this gets framed is like easily twisted around. I think it's a better strategy to attack like the idea of bullshit jobs. And I think it's better to attack the unnecessary excessive hours that people work. I could not type in chat. What do you mean? I see your message. I think there's a longer, more complicated point to extrapolate from this too. There's in that a lot of time when people are overworked, they'll actively seek out quick thrills to take their minds off how tiring their situation is. Yep, that's true. That is largely why poor people eat more junk food, will buy lots of gadgets. People had more time they could easily appreciate. They could really appreciate. They liked to do more meaningful things in the absence of need for distractions. That's right. That's true. Oh, it was your mobile. Gotcha.
All those useful things people produce in their free time. Vegetables from a backyard garden, clothes from hobby sewing, and blogs, art, cabinets, the list goes on. But others are merely working to reform the workplace to achieve more dignity for the worker. They seek better conditions, higher wages, and more say in the workplace. And still others, like degrowthers and progressives, seek the shorter work week, lessening the environmental and social toll of work by a day or two, giving us the ability to
just say that. Just say that, honestly. Just say that it is time and time again shown by different studies in different countries and different companies that a shorter work week actually works.
rest, retreat, and capture some time for ourselves. At the end of the day, we need to do away with our current relation with work. To me, this necessitates abolishing it, because as long as capitalist wage work exists, the systems of domination between employer and employee will continue to exist. Capitalism will continue to spawn meaningless jobs that pollute our environments and fill our oceans with trash. Finding a path away from work and towards play and meaning is an essential task of a post-capitalist, post-carbon world. We are capable of living in a world without wage work. We are capable of living in a world where you don't have to go to a job in order to eat, where the destruction of the natural world isn't the cost of the job, where play is emphasized above toil. We are capable. We just have to be bold enough to reach out and seize it. But if doing away with our current relationship with work is a post-capitalist strategy for mitigating climate change, what solutions are being proposed within our current capitalist framework, and are they effective? I dive into those exact questions in an additional full-length companion video to this one on Nebula.
Okay, cool. If you want to check out that video, the amount of hours Americans work for so little in return is genuinely baffling to most of the wealthier parts of the world, around 60 hours a week, to use 3/4 of it on rent and insurance, the rest to buy crappy food, and then go to noisy theme parks every few years. Well, we will unfortunately never understand that appeal. True. True. All right. We've got 2 more stories. I hate these ads. Okay. How can I close this? There we go. Americans seem to have learned somewhere that what should be the rewards of labor is a fundamental question in economics, and decided the answer is as little as possible. True. The Washington Post and CNN reported on Monday that the email written by Trump campaign Georgia operations director Robert Sinners instructed the fake electors to tell security at the state capitol that they had appointments with 2 senators. I must ask for your complete discretion in this process. Your duties are imperative to ensure the end result, a win in Georgia for President Trump, but will be hampered unless we have complete secrecy and discretion. The Post reported that the email was sent on December 13th of 2020 and instructed the electors to not mention anything to do with presidential electors or speak to the media. The Hill has reached out for representative for Trump and former president's campaign for comment. Deputy Attorney General Lisa Monaco said in January that the Department of Justice was investigating fake electors who supported Trump. Fake documents that were sent to the National Archives in December alleging electors for Electoral College supported Trump in 7 states President Biden had won. People from Arizona, Georgia, Michigan, New Mexico, Nevada, Pennsylvania, Wisconsin have been subpoenaed to appear before the House Select Committee investigating the January 6th Capitol attack for their involvement in the alleged scheme. The January 6th committee is likely to highlight newly uncovered emails by former Trump campaign staffer to fake electors during a primetime hearing on Thursday. Nice. which is June 9th, by the way, folks. June 9th. The January 6th committee is likely to highlight the newly uncovered email during the primetime hearings on Thursday. Sinner said in a statement that he was working on behalf of senior campaign officials and senior Republicans in the state and was advised by attorneys that this was necessary in order to preserve the pending legal challenge. Attorneys for Trump had for months after the 2020 election embarked on ineffective legal campaigns across the country in an attempt to overturn Biden's victory, which ultimately failed for obvious reasons. Sanders now works for the Georgia Secretary of State, Brad Raffensperger, who recently fended off a Trump-backed primary challenger after Raffensperger refused to take up the former president's efforts to overturn the presidential election in the state, and he added that this view on the matter had changed significantly from where they were on December 13th. Yeah. Somehow this guy is still employed. Listen, chat. If you ever want some good-ass economic advice, absolutely listen to people who have no idea what they're talking about.
Technology comes along that, at first sight, looks... Every now and then, a technology comes along that, at first sight, looks completely crazy, but which on closer inspection starts to make quite an awful lot of sense. And that's kind of how it is with thermophotovoltaic or TPV technology. Now, to avoid any confusion, I'm not talking about the photovoltaic thermal or PVT panels we looked at a couple of weeks ago. No, the idea with TPV is to plunge photovoltaic cells into a super hot material at about 2,400 degrees Celsius, and instead of simply being instantly vaporized, as you might logically think, the cells would actually start producing electricity with an efficiency of at least 40%. Completely bonkers, right? Well, maybe not. In fact, once the details of the overall system are revealed, it really does begin to look like something that could provide very long duration utility scale energy storage at a fraction of the cost of current lithium-ion battery technology. So let's just dive straight in and take a look.
Peace.
Hello and welcome to Just Have a Think. Thermophotovoltaics or TPVs are not a new concept. The basic idea is that they convert predominantly infrared wavelengths of light coming from a heat source into electricity using essentially the same process found in normal solar PV.
Imagine thinking that property taxes are the reasons why housing costs so much. Imagine having such a childish understanding that you think that property taxes are the things that make housing expensive.
These cells that you put on your roof. The challenge until recently has been getting them to a level of efficiency that starts to compete with existing combined cycle gas turbines, which are generally thought to be the most efficient heat engines currently available. The first part of the problem is finding a way to efficiently heat a material to a high enough temperature to produce light at just the right intensity and wavelength. The second hurdle is how to avoid the whole TPV cell vaporization thing I mentioned a moment ago. Ironically, that means somehow keeping the cells cool while they're inserted into a white-hot environment. Sounds a bit like a contradiction in terms, doesn't it? But that's exactly what a team from MIT have been working on in recent years. And they've just published details of their breakthrough technology in this paper. To get the inside track on how the whole system works in practice, I got in touch with one of the paper's main authors, Ashigun Henry, who is a mechanical engineer and associate professor at MIT. Professor Henry explained that the big advantage of TPV cells is that they can facilitate very large utility-scale energy storage at very low cost compared to existing technologies. Here's how it works. The system uses excess electricity generation from renewable energy sources to power up a very large heating element, which in turn heats tin into a molten state that can be pumped around a closed-loop system. Now here's where the MIT folks were able to make their first major breakthrough before we even get to the TPV technology. You see, if you asked most engineers to pump molten metal around a system at very high temperatures, they'd probably tell you it was impossible, mainly because there'd be no way of effectively sealing the various components in the loop at those sorts of temperatures. So the MIT team developed a carbon-based sealing solution that overcomes this problem. This video capture shows the laboratory setup pumping molten tin at 1400 degrees Celsius. The team has now demonstrated the ability to pump at temperatures in excess of 2000 degrees Celsius. The methodology was so groundbreaking that it merited an entire scientific paper in its own right, which I'll link down in the description section below. The superhot liquid metal travels through a network of carbon composite pipes into a sealed and insulated warehouse-sized building containing massive blocks of graphite. The superhot pipes radiate heat into the graphite blocks, and the whole building is filled with argon gas, which keeps the environment as inert as possible and prevents the carbon and the tin from oxidizing. Once that heat is transferred into the graphite blocks, they stay hot for a very long time indeed, not just as a result of the good quality insulation, although that obviously does play a role, but mainly as a result of the laws of nature, which, as Professor Henry explained, dictate that the bigger the blocks are, the smaller the losses will be. That's because the rate at which heat is able to leak out of the blocks is proportional to their surface area, whereas the amount of energy stored in the blocks is proportional to their volume. A small object has a large ratio of surface area to volume. That's why the cup of coffee on your desk only takes about an hour to cool down to room temperature. But very large objects have a much smaller surface area to volume ratio. The graphite blocks in this system cover an area the size of half a football field, which means they will literally take months to cool down. So now we've got a very large-scale thermal energy storage facility that can be located, for example,
the video's on this side, sorry.
Gas peaker plant. Decommissioning expensive, highly inefficient and massively polluting gas peaker plants is all the rage these days, so there'll be no shortage of locations where this technology can be utilised. Anyway, I digress. So here's where the TPV technology comes in. Whenever there's a power demand from the grid, the heat from the graphite blocks is transferred to a second warehouse type building, also filled with argon, containing an array of large, hollow, rectangular, carbon-based chambers lined with a tungsten foil. The tungsten foil glows white hot as it heats up, exactly like the filament in an incandescent light bulb. The TPV cells sit inside the chambers, which the MIT refer to as a power block, and depending on how much electricity they're required to produce at any given time, the cells can be raised up and down inside the block, exposing more or less of their surface to the light.
Again, imagine having such a childish understanding that you think that making a fixed rate is the solution instead of a progressive tax rate. And B, imagine attempting to make the argument that the sole reason why housing costs so much, rent costs so much is because property taxes?
We'll come back to how that works in a second, but first of all, why don't the cells just vaporize on contact with 2000 degrees heat like we said earlier? Well, if we take a closer look, we can see that the cells are mounted onto four sides of a heat sink, which is essentially a block of metal with channels of water flowing through it. The water's continually drawing heat away from the cells, and as long as it flows quickly enough, it'll always stay liquid and not change phase into steam. That fast-flowing water then circulates through what is effectively a massive version of a car radiator, where the heat energy is dissipated, allowing the cooled down water to flow back around the closed loop and back into the heatsink underneath the TPV cells. So what about those TPV cells then? Well, if we delve inside them, we find that there are two junctions with different band gaps. We've looked at the concept of multiple junctions and band gaps in a previous video, which you can jump back to by clicking up there somewhere. So I won't go into the minute detail of that here. Suffice to say that the band gap of a material determines the wavelength of light that can interact with it to knock its electrons out of their position and send them into an electrical circuit. Rather than using silicon as the light capturing material, which is what you find in most solar PV cells, the MIT team have opted for gallium arsenide, which is the same stuff that NASA and satellite operators use for solar panels in space. It's a much better quality material with far fewer defects, which is capable of coping with the high intensity of light produced by the tungsten power blocks. In this case, the top junction in the cell has a band gap that captures light in the visible part of the spectrum with wavelengths around 0.8 microns or 800 nanometers. That's represented by the dark blue section over here on the left-hand side of this graph. The bottom junction has a slightly modified molecular structure which enables it to capture light in the infrared part of the spectrum, represented by the narrower, lighter blue section of the graph. Right at the base of the cell is a mirror that bounces any remaining light in the infrared part of the spectrum back through the cell and into the tungsten material, where it's reabsorbed to help keep the tungsten as hot as possible. The higher the peak on the graph, the greater the power output it represents. So you can see that the power produced by the cell is derived from the visible and near infrared light, while the majority of the light simply goes through the cell and is reflected back to the tungsten emitter. That means the quality of the mirrored surface plays a massive part in the efficiency of the cell. Previous research had already achieved mirror reflectivity of 98.5%. Using that methodology, plus their own technological breakthroughs, the researchers in the MIT team plan to demonstrate an overall cell efficiency close to 50%. They've already achieved 40% using a mirror that was only 93% reflective, and Professor Henry explained that they have a well-defined pathway for reaching the 98% reflectivity target to eke out that extra 10% of overall efficiency in the cell. And that'll be getting close to the efficiency achieved by combined cycle turbines. This animation gives you a rough idea of the size of a typical configuration compared to the pickup truck in the bottom right-hand corner. Each TPV cell module will have about 1 square meter of area and will have a generating capacity of around 100 kilowatts. So an array of 30 by 33 modules will give an overall capacity of 100 megawatts. There's enough heat in the graphite to keep the cells generating electricity for 10 hours, which means a site like this would provide 1,000 megawatt hours of energy, or 1 gigawatt hour if you prefer. That's enough for tens of thousands of homes. One very significant additional advantage of setting the system up with this kind of modular configuration is that everything is decoupled. In other words, each component can be modified in isolation from the other parts of the system. So if a grid operator needed very fast charge times, they could simply increase the size of the electrical heater. If they required more storage capacity, they could just add more graphite blocks. And of course, the same principle applies to the number of TPV cells, allowing discharge capacity and rates to be fully adjustable too. That's an extremely attractive feature for grid operators who are always looking for...
I gotta get back to my 9 to 5 to pay for property taxes. Good luck, Floppy Boober. I appreciate you stopping by. Yeah, it's grid scale. Yeah.
Maximum flexibility on their systems, especially as more and more intermittent renewable power sources come online over the next couple of decades. And because the electricity is being generated by a PV cell rather than a steam turbine, you get instant response times, just like a lithium-ion battery, which means this system is much better than a gas peaker plant at following the peaks and troughs of the daily demand cycle. Professor Henry and his fellow mechanical engineers on the project have crunched the cost numbers, and unlike some other research projects, they've really considered all of the variables that would come into play to get to real-world commercial production. Once all those elements are factored in, they reached an overall cost of less than $10 per kilowatt hour. Compare that to the fully installed cost of a typical utility-scale lithium-ion battery configuration, which can be more than $300 per kilowatt hour, And you start to see the very compelling economic advantage of the TPV system. Plus you've got all that much greater flexibility that I just mentioned. Unsurprisingly then, Professor Henry and his colleagues are quite keen to get cracking on ramping this thing up. A startup business called Thermal Battery Corporation has already been created to get the concept from laboratory prototype to full commercial scale.
Damn, that would be so cool.
They're already working with an existing producer of gallium arsenide-based PV cells with a view to manufacturing a 1 megawatt-hour pilot system during 2022. Following that, a 50 megawatt-hour commercial scale demonstrator will come online in 2026, with the first full-scale 1 gigawatt-hour system planned for 2028. That should be pretty good timing to slot nicely into place as all those gas peaker plants I mentioned earlier get decommissioned.
Yes.
Now, of course, this technology will be entering a very competitive marketplace with all sorts of energy storage solutions coming online all the time, many of which we've featured on this channel. So Professor Henry and his colleagues have certainly got their work cut out. But commercial partners are already being secured and discussions are already taking place with electricity grid operators. So there's a decent chance we could see this innovative energy storage system cropping up all over the world in the next decade or so.
I hope.
As always, if you've got news or views on this particular topic, then jump down to the comment section below and leave your thoughts there. That's it for this week though. Thanks as always to our amazing Patreon support.
Based. It is interesting. And I hope it does get and I hope it does get deployed. Yeah, like, Seeker is just desperately grabbing at anything that could maybe possibly prove his asinine point, even when told that it's just not how it works, because that's actually not the reason why housing prices are going up. So for those folks who actually have, like, the adults in the room would take 5 seconds to understand how it works. And by contrast, the reason why you see a sharp house increase, especially during an economic downturn, include ultra-low interest rates, housing production shortfalls, fewer houses for sale, a shift in family spending towards housing, pandemic-induced acceleration of the purchase of second homes, all of which compound and become what would be called the perfect storm, where long-term pressures are joined by short-term ones to push the prices of housing higher at an unusual rapid pace, easily overwhelming downward pressures that come from increased unemployment during the pandemic. So, for those folks who actually understand how things work, no. No, it's not property taxes. Nowhere near. Despite you wanting to will that into existence, I believe a certain a clown on the internet said taxes, excuse me. A certain clown on the internet said facts don't care about your feelings or something like that, despite how much you want to push the idea, how much you feel that property taxes are the reason why housing prices are up. It's just not the case. You can argue that property taxes are expensive or too much. You can argue that sometimes in certain areas we could readjust and make property taxes go away or different or repurposed. You can make those arguments, but the argument that you made earlier is just not true. The idea that property taxes are the reason why housing is expensive just on its surface doesn't make actual sense, and upon further look, it doesn't actually pan out. So, yeah. Yeah, imagine that. Imagine being, like, cool like that. I think your original comment said housing. Since you're trying to debate bro me, Your original comment said housing. Oh, here we go. At Hominem 13, moderately sized apartment 1, number 2. Why do you think houses cost so much? Have you ever heard of property taxes? Oh, so now we're backtracking. So now we're trying to make the argument that you're trying to make the argument that that's why rent is high. No, rent is high because as you were just disproven by an actual landlord, gross. It's not just because of property taxes. Okay. There are a lot of factors for housing costs. Yes, we know. The adults in the room would understand that. Property taxes are theft. Yeah. Anyways, I didn't get this. I didn't get this out of nowhere, by the way. I actually got this from the former CEO of Freddie Mac. So it's not like some leftist made this up, okay? The source that I'm using is a CEO from Freddie Mac, okay? So you're just wrong. You're just wrong. Period. All right. I mean, you could try to push your feelings of a certain issue, but that doesn't make it true. And the more times you repeat it, doesn't make it true. It turned out horrible. But I just wanted to make sure that we didn't use a lefty source. Yes, we President, economic inflation must also be a big factor. Yep. Rent is a scam. That is the first true thing you've actually said in this time. That is by far the truest thing you've said in this entire time. Rent is indeed a scam. You can keep denying this, but I'm literally proving. How are you proving it? You're telling me that property taxes are high. Okay, and I know they're high in some cases. And that doesn't tell me why or how that increases housing prices. Providing housing to people who can't buy a house is a scam. Yeah, because you bought it. It is a scam. Rent is a scam, dude. I understand that it's a hard reality to come face to face with, but yes, you keep telling me this, but it doesn't show me how that increases property renting that you made. The claim that you made. Miss Nixa, how's it going? Oh, so now we're backpedaling. So now it's not renting, it's everything? What? Prices are many factors and adjusting. Yeah, I know, Alio. Seeker over here has a childish understanding of how things work. Anyways. But tell me how to live my life, you lefty know-it-all. Yeah, rent is a scam, dude. Harsh reality. Singapore's dengue emergency is a climate change omen for the world. Yep. Singapore says it's facing a dengue emergency as it grapples with an outbreak of seasonal diseases that come unusually early this year. The Southeast Asian city has already exceeded 11,000 cases, far beyond the 5,258 reported throughout 2021, and that was before June 1st when its peak dengue season traditionally begins. Experts are warning that it's a grim figure not only for Singapore, whose tropical climate is a natural breeding ground for the Aedes mosquitoes that carry the virus, but also for the rest of the world. That's because changes in global climate mean such outbreaks are likely to become more common and widespread in the coming years. That's the TLDR of that, basically. As climate change progresses, we can see that it's not just the planet getting warmer. There are significant tangential domino effects that happen, like outbreaks. For the leftist ideology to make sense, you must be completely ignorant of how economics work. It's always funny because like the people who boast like the most knowledge for economics are usually the ones who are woefully unable to understand it or come to grips with it. The outbreak in Singapore has been made worse by recent extreme weather, experts say, and it's a problem that could be a harbinger of what is to come elsewhere as more countries experience prolonged hot weather spells and thundery showers that help to spread both the mosquitoes and the virus they carry. The disease is now endemic in more than 100 countries, the WHO said in a global dengue report in January of 2022, noting that cases increased 30-fold in the last 50 years. Not only is the number of cases increasing as the disease spreads to new areas, but explosive outbreaks are occurring. For Singapore, yeah. And this is just a view of the future, folks. Oh god, you're such a fucking clown. Property taxes are dependent on the value of your property, correct? What determines the value of your property? The county assessor actually does. Yeah, but there are market forces at work that increase or decrease values of property, which increase or decrease property taxes. Therefore, it is a moot point to try to make the argument that actually it's the property taxes that are increasing rent. Granted, Debate Bro over here told me that housing prices are solely affected by property taxes. Which is also incorrect. Alright, folks. It is getting to that time before 11:30. One more for the memes.
Debate me. Enter the ring of logic and reason. If I don't know what I'm talking about and you point that out, that's an ad hominem, baby. Your argument's been demolished. If I say something heinous and that makes you angry, that's an emotional argument, and I win. You're going up against the titan of the mind. So you don't want a free exchange of ideas? Isn't that what society's all about? You're never gonna change my mind, but a bunch of dumbasses online will think I won. Why don't you want to debate? Please debate me. Oh, come on, please debate me. Oh, fuck. That means I win.
Yes, I personally stole it from Sam Cedar himself. I actually went to his studio and I stole it. Alright, folks, unfortunately, that is all the time I have today. Thank you so much for hanging out. If you guys enjoyed the content, don't forget to hit the follow button. Alio coming in hot with the 12 biddies. Great stream. Have a good one. See ya. Thank you for hanging out. Thank you. Spread it forward. I see you. Folks, if you enjoy the content, don't forget to hit the follow button. Be safe and be happy. That's all we can do. Also head on over to the YouTube, hit the subscribe button. It takes 5 seconds. It really does help us out. Spread the word far and wide that this is the chillest place to be for news and politics. As always, folks, please stay safe. Please take care of each other. I love you all, and I hope to see you guys in the next one. See ya. You have a good day. Folks, go check out these wonderful folks in chat. No problem. All right, folks, we're heading out to Tina. Be respectful. We're heading out in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. See ya.